Well, good morning from my practice here in Pretoria. This morning's video is about what is troubling most people. And after doing a bit of research on the clients that come to see me and the requests I get, there were 4 major things that people put in the field where I ask what is troubling you or what do you need help with the most. And these 4 things were actually quite incredible because they are all interlinked. And as I found out that, I wondered why so many people have an aversion to using hypnosis or NLP or cognitive behavioral therapy or any of the other alternative therapies that's so effective and it's been proven over and over again to be helpful. And the thought occurred to me that maybe people don't really understand what hypnosis is because there's a big misconception surrounding the word hypnosis. And first of all, the aversion that they have surrounding the word hypnosis is because most of us are exposed to it in hypnosis shows. So making people do things that they don't want to, making people look like fools for entertainment purposes. Now, in the realm of a therapeutic event, hypnosis is definitely not used for that. And it's not even close to what we apply in the hypnotherapeutic community. Okay, so let us start by discussing the 4 major things that people inquire about when they click on my hypnosis advert. That is in anxiety, depression. All right, so anxiety and depression seems to be the biggest thing, and this was out of a survey of 1,000 people. So a lot of people suffer from anxiety and depression. Then the third one was the past, and as you can see, anxiety and depression is always closely linked to your past, because where else would you have learned the skills to pick up to feel anxious and to feel depressed? And then the last one was self-worth. So anxiety, depression, the past, and self-worth. So anxiety, let's talk a bit about that. When you're anxious, your body shuts down. Have you ever asked yourself what shows you you're anxious? There's a certain feeling in your body that arises that builds the anxiety. And where does that emotion stem from? Where does that feeling stem from? Somewhere in the mind, you've latched onto an event that made you anxious. And it's funny because we can only be anxious for future events. You can only have anxieties to things that surround you that might happen. Depression happens in the past, anxiety is something that happens in the future. So how does the mind work around that? And why is it that not a lot of people want to work through hypnosis? Because hypnosis is purely a tool to put you into a trance state. Now, if we look at brainwaves, the trance state happens automatically when we go to sleep and when we wake up. Because our brain waves, we go through beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And those are the 4 major ones. So if we drop to alpha and theta, that's usually where suggestion therapy and stuff like hypnosis takes place. That's a trance state. So if you fall asleep and with a certain thought in your mind, you're actually doing self-hypnosis. And the self-hypnosis part is what you're busy with. So when we're busy with self-hypnosis, what are we feeding ourselves? What's the words that we use? What are the images that we use? The sounds that we use? The smells, the tastes? Because remember, we can only make sense with this reality with our senses. There's no other way we can make sense of this reality if we don't use our senses. Okay. Now in comes hypnosis. Hypnosis basically means, it comes from the Greek word hypnos, which means sleep, which is not really an accurate description because you're not really asleep. It's more or less like that waking stage when you know you're awake, but you're not half asleep, you're not awake, you're not half asleep, but you're not really awake, and then something happens, but it's so real in your mind that your body reacts. Sort of like you get a fright and then jump out of bed and you wonder what the hell that was. That is the trance state that so many people go through. Every one of us that fall asleep have the capacity to affect change within that realm. And that's the realm where hypnosis works. So the aversion to the word is quite tricky because people don't understand that. And I've had so many complaints. And people say, oh, hypnosis opens you up for certain things, and hypnosis opens you up for demons, and it's this practice. And I thought, wow, I've had clients, I've had Hindus, Muslims, even a Satanist, I've had Christians, I've had atheists. They all have the same skill. Okay? They all have the capacity, if you ask the right questions, if you structure the session correctly, to be able to touch that part of them and to go explore there and solve problems. So I don't really know where the aversion comes from, but I think it's largely due to insufficient evidence or experience surrounding hypnosis, because you don't really want to run around like a chicken or bark like a dog or do weird and wonderful things against your will, which incidentally you will not be able to do under hypnosis. Hypnosis cannot change your morals or your values. Okay, that's intrinsic. That's something that's very deep within you, but it can help and facilitate you to become aware of what those values are. So anxiety, depression, the past, and self-worth. Where do these problems originate? They must originate in your mind, because somebody must have planted a thought in your mind to tell you that somewhere you're not good enough, some experience showed you you're not good enough, somewhere where anxiety took place must have anchored in your mind that you have now made an association with, and that association is manifesting in your body. So when I get these requests, I also ask another question: what has held you back from dealing with the problem that you are facing? So for instance, if people come to me and they say they've got anxiety, I usually ask them what has held them back. And most of the time they say finances, it's the first big thing. Experiences is the second big thing. So those two things combined make it even worse, because now you don't have the finances to fix your problem and you get more anxious about it. So I'm here today to tell you, relax, take a deep breath. Your mind has got an amazing capability. When you go into that trance state, you can actually experience a part of you with using imagination, using breath control, and using visualization, that you can actually filter out and pinpoint the problem. It's almost like you take a panoramic view and you turn it into a focused view. When you have that focused view of your problem, you can actually perceive it differently. Your mind can perceive it differently. And if we change a problem in the mind, it manifests in reality. Now in the past it used to sound like hogwash, because how can the mind affect reality? That's one of the most fascinating things I like, and that is why I do what I do. The mind can definitely change your reality, because the mind, we realize, is capable of secreting hormones through the brain and through certain emotions that you experience. So for instance, if you have a sad emotion the whole time, or sad thoughts, your hormonal makeup will complement that by sending signals through your body, releasing certain peptides in the bloodstream to attach to your cells to have the feeling of sadness. The same with joy, the same with courage, the same with all these emotions that we experience. So how do we go about controlling these emotions? We have to control our thoughts. Is it possible to control our thoughts? Yes, indeed, it's possible to control our thoughts. I've done it thousands of times with lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds. We have that capacity, but nobody ever teaches you how to use it. So the first thing you need to try and find out is what is really important to you. Because if your mind can latch onto something that's important to you, something that's important in your value system, then by all means it can have a goal that you can set yourself to achieve what is in line with your own value systems. Now with anxiety and depression, especially depression, you may be doing something that's going totally against your value system. You may have injected somebody else's ideas and fantasies into your life. You have made somebody else's reality your reality. And that is like suicide. Because if you do that, you won't have energy. You won't have the will to sustain what you want to do, because you've injected somebody else's value and somebody else's reality into who you are. Now, very rarely do we get the chance to reflect on what we want to do and who we really are, because schedules in the Western world, we have goals that we need to achieve, schedules every day, work, all these pressures don't allow us to feel and to sense that part of us that we can actually go into for counsel. It's so funny to me, because there are all these gurus around, and it is nice to have a guru because somebody has to show you the path, but inside yourself you've got an amazing guru. Now, if people don't even have proprioception, the ability to find out where their body is in time and space, how do they have mental proprioception? What do they know what's happening behind their thoughts? How do they adjust their thoughts? Is it just an automatic machine that creates all these emotions that we're surrounded with? And is it a hopeless battle to try and control these thoughts? No, it is not. There are definitely certain ways and techniques that you can do it. And the first one is by asking relevant questions. Instead of asking victimized questions like, oh, why is this happening to me? Rather shift it a little bit and go, what can I learn from this? What is this trying to tell me? And it's fascinating, because if you do that in a trance state where you're relaxed, or in a meditative state, or whatever you choose to go into that space where you become quiet and actually just become engaged with your own essence and your own being, those answers surface. And that's a nice feeling to have, because when those answers surface, then you have certainty. When you have certainty, the body can know what it wants and what it should do. And if you have that certainty and the body knows what it wants to do and goes for it, then there's very rarely a place for depression. You'll see you'll see people that use what they have. You'll see them and you'll see that they have a goal that they've set, they've got the intention that they set, and there's no place for depression when they have that. It's actually quite amazing, because when their value systems are aligned to their actions, depression and anxiety sort of fades out. Okay, so when people contact me and say anxiety and depression, can it help for anxiety and depression? Of course it can. It can actually help a great deal. But it's like anything else. They say, how many sessions would I require? Now, in the realm of hypnosis, we aim for 4 to 6 sessions. Then you should have 90% success rate between the 4 to 6 sessions, as was discovered by the American Psychological Association. I think they did the study in 2007 already. So 4 to 6 sessions, 90% success rate. Actually more than 90% success rate. I think it was about 94, 95. That is amazing. So what is troubling people the most? It must be your own mind. Okay, it's the mind that troubles you. It's not your external circumstances. It's the perception surrounding your external circumstances. And then we start to maybe feel enclosed. So how do we change that? Like I said, by starting to ask relevant questions. Now, the biggest thing for people is when they feel depressed, it's like life has no meaning and it's painful and they want to check out and it's sad and it's like not worth living, and this depression just keeps on going and you don't know how to do it because you want to fight it but you don't know how. Small steps. Change the question around. Something I do with my clients very often is we go through a little systematic approach to show them what part is this depression like, because depression is only a part of you. Okay, each and every one of us has got so many different traits. We've got all the different traits actually, but depression is a small part of us. Anxiety is a small part of it. It may not feel like that to some people, because when you're in that anxious state, it feels like the whole world is collapsing around you. You can't breathe, you can't function. Okay, that's just the mind playing tricks on you, and that's a lie. You're a bigger part than that. When there's depression and anxiety, realize the first step is that, okay, I'm feeling this now, but it's only a small part of me. It's not all I am. Because what are we? If we go into the neurons of the brain, if we go into a cellular level, on an atomic level, on a molecular level, what do we become? We become space, funny enough. There's more space than anything else if we go into the microcosmic realm. So what is that space filled with? Our thoughts. Okay, our thoughts get filled in that space. When you become quiet and you have a space where you're, say like in the shower or you're in a meditative space, you're busy with something like driving, for instance. Something that cuts off the conscious mind and the subconscious, and autopilot takes over. Or sometimes you get weird thoughts. Sometimes you get amazing ideas. Sometimes you have inspirational ideas and they're just like a fleeting moment and you can't grasp onto them. That means that they are there. Something created them. You created them with your thoughts. Who taught you how to think? That is the weirdest thing. We seem to go on autopilot. Schools definitely don't teach people most of the time how to think. Children are not taught how to think, they're taught what to think. There's a big, big difference. Now, if you live in a realm where you're being taught what to think the whole time, what to do, what to say, how to act, how to live your life, of course it's going to be depressing, because you have not realized what your own worth is and what your values are. So if you make that slight switch and ask yourself what is important for you, not what is important for social norms, what is important for maybe a higher power that wants to judge you, what is important for your family, friends, all these structures that we use that mostly run on fear, then something amazing happens. You find the sort of inner peace and you go, wow, this inside voice of mine is actually quite clear on what I want to achieve, what I want to do, what I enjoy, what am I here for. Then depression and anxiety doesn't seem to function. The mind cannot hold those two opposing thoughts in there. That's one of the rules of the mind. Okay, two opposing thoughts cannot be held one at the same time without causing stress. So your words and your actions need to balance out. If your words and your actions are different, then you've got trouble, because then what you say and what you do is not what you say and what you do. What you say is sometimes not what you do, and what you do is sometimes not what you say. That causes stress within your body. Now, is stress good or bad? Both. You get distress which means you're under a lot of stress and tension, and then you get eustress. Eustress allows you to grow. Eustress pushes you into the right direction. Say you're excited to do something. Let's take an example like going on holiday, like an exotic place that you've never been before. Now you want to go there and you're excited, and the stress that it causes builds you up to do something. You want to plan for it, you want to pack, you want to make sure you've got enough spending money, you find out about that place, what's happening there, the people, the sights to be seen. So that's a good stress that forces you to focus on what you want. The same with when you understand what you're actually aiming for in your own life and what makes you you. Right? All of us are quite unique. Your fingerprints are unique. The irises in your eyes have got a unique pattern. Your ears are unique. Even the brain waves that we supposedly all have, they can now analyze brainwaves and link brainwave patterns to certain individuals when they test it. That is fascinating, because how far does the individuality go? But I think the problem comes in because we're so individual and trying to live our own lives, we forget that there's an underlying unity and underlying reality that combines and connects us all. On the atomic molecular structure, we're all one. And that's a bit weird, because how does the mind deal with that? The mind deals with that and asking yourself, really, we are all one, but what is my purpose? What are my values? What do I enjoy doing? What do I enjoy spending my time, my money, my energy, and my focus on? If that is clear to you, then there's no way that depression and anxiety can fill in those spaces. Okay, but sometimes we get a bit knocked around by life. That's going to happen. Nothing happens in isolation. So when we do stuff like hypnosis and trance work, or go see any type of therapeutic or therapist, there's an important thing that you have to understand. It doesn't matter which modality the therapy takes place in. It is the therapist that's important. If you resonate with what the therapist is saying, then that already is a trigger that can tell you halfway that you can work with this person. And a therapist's main goal is not to give you therapy, in my humble opinion, is to actually empower you, to show you valid techniques that you can apply in everyday life that can help you and assist you with the troubles that you are facing. That is nice. That is something worthwhile. And it's interesting because years ago, a friend of mine, we were discussing religion, because hypnosis seemed to be a big no-no in the realm of religion. And in some religions, they don't care. It's a very, very interesting debate that's going on. But I don't want to debate it. But a friend of mine came to me one day and he said he's not going to his religious denomination anymore. And I asked him why. He says because the preacher preaches that Jesus walked on water, but the preacher can't walk on water. And he said from now on he'll only listen to someone and change his life according to their values if they can walk the walk and talk the talk. And now that's quite an amazing thing, because none of us can walk on water, and if some people can, it will be amazing to show. But that is the approach you need to have, guys, especially with yourself. If you really want to have something for yourself, seek out people that has done it, that has results, that have achieved or has achieved a result, and then follow and emulate those people. Because if you place other people's value systems that haven't even walked the walk in your own value system, and you ask them questions and try and grow from there, you're setting yourself up for failure. And then anxiety and depression can definitely play a big role. Okay. When we receive that kind of trauma, and that kind of trauma sets into the subconscious mind, the subconscious already makes an association with what happened. And if what happened is real in your mind, it is real for you. So crazy to me, because if you see kids, they live in a fantasy world, but it's so real for them. Their friends are real, the stuff in TV they see is real, especially if they're younger than 7. Their ages show that the TV and the reality of the TV is real for them. Their friends are real. I've actually worked with a little boy. He was diagnosed with autism, one of those labels. And for him, it was a big problem sitting in class, because Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore and all his friends was quite real to him. He brought that over from childhood, and he would laugh with them, joke with them as if they were in class. And it was actually quite fascinating, because I was supposed to work with him and I didn't know what the hell to do with this boy. It was so interesting, because I thought, how do you approach this? Especially from the realm of imagination, visualization and emotions, because that's the realm of hypnosis. So we started playing, and we just played a game with his companions, with Eeyore, Tigger, Piglet, Winnie the Pooh, and they were all there. And this kid had so much fun. He was lying on the floor, rolling, laughing, and we started to make fun of his friends. And we engaged with them, and he was just experiencing it in such a realistic manner that I thought, wow, this is amazing. I didn't see any of those friends of his, but he was experiencing it in his reality. And afterwards, when we were done, he actually said goodbye to them, and it was awesome, and he realized he can play with them whenever he wanted, but sometimes he's not allowed to play with them, like in class when he has to focus. And his attitude completely changed in class. He actually started to focus in class. He actually started to listen to the teacher. Now, what did I do? I just spent some time with him in his reality, not trying to impose my own value system into his value system, but trying to find a way that can work for him. And that makes all the difference. So maybe you must try and apply that for yourself. Try and apply that and see what makes the difference for you. What makes the difference in your surroundings. Ask the right questions surrounding your purpose and what you want and what you do not want. And be quite specific about it. Okay, because the more specific you are, the more direct you can relate those specific feelings and specific things that happen within your body. And then ask yourself, where do you feel it? How do you feel it? Attach to the emotions, attach images, sounds, tastes, because we've got the olfactory, the gustatory, the kinetic part of us, the sounds. We've got all these different things that we use to make sense of the world. But what is your biggest sense surrounding emotions? What is your biggest sense surrounding a problem? What is your biggest sense surrounding anxiety, depression, your past? Why are you holding on to your past? What can you not let go? How is it that you can make this better? So, with all these things related, it is very important to ask yourself those questions. Now, one thing you have to not do is approach it in a fear-based manner. If you approach these things in a fear-based manner, there's always a mess up. Okay, fear of judgment. Fear of a higher authority going to do something against you. Fear of non-acceptance. Okay, so fear of rejection. These fears, when you ask your own questions, usually do not bring you to your own answer. They bring you to somebody else's answer, somebody else's value system that was imprinted in your mind, in your behavior. And those value systems sometimes can be positive, sometimes can be negative, but they always, if they're not in line with your own, they're always going to lead to failure. So people are like, oh yes, how do I deal with this problem? Start by asking the right questions. What is your problem? Associate all the images surrounding your problem, the emotions surrounding your problem, the colors, the taste, the senses, and then from there, try and expand and ask, who taught you this problem? Who showed you that this was a problem? Is it your perception? Is it society's perception? Is it someone close to you who told you that this was a problem? And how does your body feel about it? Now, most of the time, the body shuts down. Why? Because the mind is overwhelmed. If your body shuts down, it means that it's just overwhelming. If I put you on an operating table, give you anesthesia, you're not going to care what happens to this body of yours. It's going to be just, I can do it with whatever I want with it. When the mind comes back online, then you worry what's happening with the body. So reverse engineer that and start in the mind. So when there's anxiety, depression, the past, self-worth, analyze and start breaking down all the thoughts and all the things surrounding these 4 things that you have, that's a problem. Okay, and if they become a problem and you realize there are certain things that you have to deal with and you cannot deal with them on your own, talk to someone about it. Especially someone that just understands your value systems are unique and they want to empower you and not control you or manipulate you. Because if they want to control you and manipulate you through fear and misunderstanding of their own misconceptions, then you're barking up the wrong tree. It's going to be a frustrating conversation. But also realize that everybody else, even the people you work with, have their own value systems. And to try and fit into theirs and not just live your own is a bit of a problem. The word courage, as a matter of fact, in the Latin language was the word core, and that meant to discuss your whole story or share your whole story with your whole heart of who you are. If you can do that, if you can share the story of who you are with your whole heart without fear of judgment, fear of rejection, then it's quite an amazing thing. You see those people, they just feel comfortable in their skin, they're just who they are, they're 100% natural, and that's quite amazing because they've realized the part of them is there and they must start loving themselves and accepting themselves for who they are. Because we try to fit in the mold, it's not good, because everybody tries and teaches you to fit in a certain mold, whether it's a religious mold, a financial mold, a social mold, a physical mold, a mental mold, a familial mold. All these things are trying to mold you into something that you should not be. Okay, and that can be the source of any anxiety and depression and self-worth, because where do you fit in? Now flip that switch, and if these areas of life are giving you pressure, ask yourself, what is it trying to teach you? What is he trying to pull you closer towards? Which parts of you were you neglecting that this was manifesting in your reality to show you that you have to come back to your true self and that you're actually that person? When you start to address it that way and asking questions surrounding that, then it's quite cool. Then you get amazing answers. And if you have somebody guiding you that knows how this realm works, the realm of subconscious, imagination, fantasy, emotion, and to bring that together and link it into a realistic thing and apply it and give you a tool that you can use, it's worth gold. And that's most of the time what mostly well-trained hypnotherapists do. So I don't understand their aversion to the hypnosis thing. But as I've explained, I think it is just ignorance. Not a lot of research has been done by the person using the word, and they've just attached a certain label to it. Okay. And hypnosis is not hypnosis like in the past. It happens actually quite very quickly. If you watch Darren Brown's stuff, he demonstrates it tremendously well, and it's amazing how quickly he can get people to change their value systems and to heal and to play with their minds. So hypnosis is not the old thing of, oh, look into my eyes, you're getting sleepy, or those suggestive therapies still work, but the realm has changed quite a bit. There's so many other things we can do, and there's so many other things that you can communicate with. So I hope that clarifies most of what we wanted to discuss in this event, what's troubling people the most. So just to sum up, what troubles you the most is your mind, your thoughts, and your emotions. If those are not relevant, and if those don't exist within you, then your troubles and the stuff that you experience will not be as bad as you experience them. So get it back to basics. Try and just analyze one thought a day. Just one thought a day. We've got so many happening during the day, but if there's one thought that's occurring, that's giving you negative feedback, try and isolate it and just ask questions surrounding that. And then see how much of your power you can take back. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this explained a bit about what hypnosis is and is not, and a few rules of the mind and how it incorporates into life. We'll have another one, or I will have another one in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, where we can delve a little deeper and open up the floor for a bit more questions surrounding all these things. But as usual, if you have any questions, you're welcome to contact me. My details are on the page, and hope to hear from you soon. Have a good Sunday and go deal with those emotions and just be true to who you are and have fun with it. Thank you for watching.